Oh, the humanity. This just got a bit techie, didn't it? Because coming into this Grand Prix weekend, it felt like it would be an inflection point that either McLaren would kick on or Red Bull would do something, bring upgrades with a view to catch them. And it feels like it's the latter more than it is the former. Red Bull have brought a couple very subtle upgrades, floor edge, engine cover, and it feels like 2023 all over again. RB19 settings, it feels like they've got a car under Max Verstappen capable of competing for each and every single race win. Andreas Stella, that we knew over the past couple of races by virtue of Baku and Singapore that they were anomalous circumstances as far as how much, the extent to which those tracks suited our papaya coloured car, and we see that bear out in real time because for the avoidance of doubt, Max Verstappen is back. That was his pole lap for the losing. Lando Norris nominally is the pole. He will start from first tomorrow, but Max Verstappen was on a lap quicker than him, 2/10 up in sector alone, reminiscent of course of yesterday during the sprint race shootout. And for the avoidance of doubt, during sector 2 for one Maximilian Verstappen, he was going quicker yet and still until King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk yeeted it into the barrier and saved Lando Norris's bacon. It's techie this, because of course there's fortuitous circumstances. Over the course of a 24 race championship, you might argue that luck tends to balance itself out. Lando Norris lost one under similar circumstances at Baku not long ago. Yellow flag settings, and again he was on what looked like it was set to be a pole lap. Lando Norris said of his nominal pole lap today that he didn't think he could have gone any quicker, that he topped out as far as the uppermost potential of that car. This was going to be Max Verstappen's, also too Juan Carlos Sainz Jr., man from Madrid, because he said that he could have gone ever so slightly quicker. I say all that to say this: I feel like Max Verstappen, as at October 2024, is yet again inevitable. This feels a lot like 2023, doesn't it? Deja vu, Groundhog Day per se, that Max Verstappen yet again has the whip hand. And if you don't believe me, check out the odds. Not long ago, over the course of the autumn break, but odds makers, the actuarials, who again put probabilities to each and every single one of these eventualities, they had Maximilian Verstappen winning 62% of the time the Drivers' Championship in 2024. Now, straight back to what it was earlier this season, 78% of the time they say Max Verstappen wins on the back of what appeared to be a dominant sprint victory. Oh, the humanity. Let's see. And again, for the avoidance of doubt, on the Cameron CC channel, unless you are invested in losing money in real time, we will never back against Max Verstappen. He's enhorabuena. This is his time, it feels. He is in real time taking the mantle, the baton over from one Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson Hamilton, athletics, Olympic settings. But Lando needs to take advantage of this fortuitous circumstances. The gap in the championship is now 54 points on the back of the sprint race victory that was Max Verstappen's. Take advantage of this. The F1 world is waiting to see whether he can continue to buck the trend and indeed start from pole and end a first lap in first place. The run in to turn 1 tomorrow will be long and tumultuous. It is beset on both sides by the tyranny of evil men. It's going to be techie. Some have argued for the longest time that in COTA, what you want to do is put yourself on second and benefit therefore from a tow on the long run into turn 1. That will be the lot, of course, of one Lando Norris. Of what Maximilian Verstappen, even Lando will start on pole. Max Verstappen will have the tow tomorrow. And maybe then I need to walk back what I've said about fortuitous circumstances. Maybe the fortuitous circumstance will be Max Verstappen. I will not bet against that dude making it through turn 1 in first place. Oh, and by the way, You know, to talk about Lewis Hamilton, I didn't want to talk about this. It's too depressing. It's too negative. It's too late at night to broach this topic. But Lewis Hamilton, yet again, for the second time this year, the first one being China, fails to get out of Q1. Now, you can argue as much as you want to about sabotage. I can't indulge that nonsense meaningfully. Fundamentally, this was Lewis Hamilton's error. Yeah, of course, he doesn't have a car underneath him, but neither does George, and he made it through. What are you going to tell me that Mercedes are sabotaging him? That they reduced his tyre pressures, that they didn't send him out with the tyres in the optimal temperature window. I can't engage this nonsense. I cannot nor will not ever sacrifice true value and objectivity at the altar of partisanship nor confirmation bias. I can't do it. Sometimes, Lewis, bless him, always be my driver, but sometimes you've got to lean into some culpability and accountability. Lewis absolutely could have polled it for the sprint race. Absolutely, the shootout was his, and again, unfortuitous circumstances or lack thereof, he was a victim of those. Here though, for the qualifying race proper, again, the car hasn't been brilliant. They set it up for the sprint shootout so that it was super quick on the straights, meaning therefore that you've got to struggle through sector 1, the high downforce sector, Maggots Beckett settings, and Lewis Hamilton was always going to struggle. But here's my problem. Sometimes at the age of 39, soon to be 40 years old, Matthew Brown, you're a legend. Lando, you better thank George. Absolutely, mate, and you're far too kind, Matthew. Here's my issue though with Lewis. Sometimes when these instances keep happening, again, the second time this year in 2024 that Lewis has failed to get out of Q1, sometimes you've got to take yourself a look in the mirror. Understand what you're doing in real time. Are you making mistakes? Is it, as Fernando Alonso has said, that this type of car under this rule and reg spec, you've got to drive it at 90% counterintuitively with a view to get 100% of the lap time on the table? Is that what's going on? James Allison has said as much, and he's closer to the circumstance than any one of these sabotage merchants, the likes of Mama Cameron, saying that Lewis, they're pulling out the technical rug from underneath one Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton. James Allison said, no, you lot are talking rubbish. What's happening here between the free practice and the paid sessions being quali and the race is that Lewis is a natural born hustler. That's always the way that he's driven these cars from his inception, the inception of his career in the Wonder Fs in 2007. But you can't do that now. Alonso leveraged this explanation to explain why there hasn't been safety cars for ages in Formula One, because everybody's cottoned on drive these cars at 90%, and that's the way that you get the best out from them. James Ellison said as much on the Beyond the Grid podcast. That's what Lewis needs to do, and he's not doing it. Hence why in free practice he looks like Ayrton Senna again. But then you get to qualifying and all of a sudden we have another circumstance before us where Sir Lewis Hamilton is out for the second time this year of Q1. Twice he's not made it through to Q3, going out in Q2 as well. This now is a trend and it needs addressing in real time, again, for the avoidance of doubt. Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton is the greatest peddler that I have ever seen. In his inception, in his first year, beating one Fernando Alonso, who some say wasn't too bad either. God tier race IQ. So for Lewis Hamilton to jump straight in the car and beat him says something. That's all you need to know about the man and the peddler that Sir Lewis Hamilton is. And for that, I love that chap. I will always support him. But for the avoidance of doubt, I cannot, no, I will not sacrifice truth and objectivity at the altar of partisanship, not even Lewis Hamilton's altar. And I say all that to say this, that dude has to take some criticism on his shoulders, some culpability, have a very real, open and honest conversation, both with himself and his engineers, with a view to understand where that qualifying pace has gone. Because what he can't afford to do is end up in that Scuderia Ferrari team driving that red car in those red overalls next year and have Charles Leclerc roundly, so comprehensively beating him in that Ferrari whilst he's at Maranello, as has done one King George Russell, first of his name. Why? Because if he harbours aspirations to win himself an 8th, then he needs to filtrate out for these mistakes, this speed or lack thereof in qualifying. or it's a prerequisite. Indeed, it's minerals. If indeed he hopes to climb the mountaintop that is the 8th Drivers' Championship, a mountaintop whose gradient is not insubstantial, then these errors need to fix in real time. He needs to address them. The first step to resolving for an issue is identifying that you have one in the first instance. But I digress.